Hi, and welcome back to the Healthy Life Approach podcast. I'm Kristen Beasley, and today we're kicking off a new mini series for a Friday focus with a topic that keeps popping up in my conversations with women, especially women in their 40s who feel like their brains have suddenly changed overnight. Here's the scene I've heard again and again. A woman sits down with me and says, Kristen, I think I have ADHD. And then it all comes out at once. I can't concentrate. I lose the thread in the middle of the conversation. I start something, get pulled into something else, and the first thing just disappears. I walk into a room and forget why I'm there. This is happening every single day. Then she hesitates, like she's about to admit the part that feels embarrassing or uncertain, and she says, or maybe it's just menopause. That little phrase, that or maybe, is exactly where today's episode lives because the overlap between ADHD symptoms and perimenopause symptoms is so tight, so convincing that it's leaving a lot of women confused and a lot of providers guessing. And that can lead to two kinds of mistakes, both of which matter. Women with lifelong undiagnosed ADHD get waved off with its hormones, and women with hormone driven symptoms get labeled with ADHD they may not actually have. So today we're solving the whole puzzle in one sitting. We're doing the first important step, laying the pieces on the table and naming why this is happening. Let's start with the simple truth. The overlap is real and it's not random. ADHD is a neurodevelopmental condition. That phrase can sound big and clinical, but the everyday experience is pretty specific. ADHD affects executive function. That's your brain's management system. It's the part that helps you prioritize, plan, estimate time, stay focused, regulate emotion, and follow a task from start to finish. And just to be clear, ADHD is not a measure of intelligence. Plenty of brilliant women have ADHD. It's about how the brain allocates attention and motivation in real time. Now, here's where perimenopause enters the story. Perimenopause isn't only about hot flashes or cycle changes. It's also a neurological transition. Hormones like estrogen and progesterone just don't influence the body, they influence the brain. And as those hormones fluctuate, they can disrupt the exact same executive function skills we just talked about. So when women tell me, I can't focus, I'm forgetful, I'm overwhelmed, I'm snapping more easily, I feel emotionally reactive, I can't finish what I start, I'm in this constant fog, that symptom list can sit comfortably in both categories. ADHD can do that. Perimenopause can do that too. And again, this isn't a coincidence. It's because both ADHD and perimenopause involve overlapping brain chemistry, especially dopamine and norepinephrine, the neurotransmitters heavily involved in attention, motivation, and follow through. Estrogen, in particular, helps modulate these systems. So when estrogen begins to drop and swing in perimenopause, the brain can lose some of that support. If you already have ADHD, it can feel like someone turned the difficulty level way up. And if you don't have ADHD, the hormone shift alone can still create a picture that looks a lot like it. Now, you might wonder why we're hearing about this so much more lately, why so many women over 40 are asking for the first time in their lives, do I have ADHD? It's not because suddenly everyone developed ADHD at midlife. It's more like a perfect storm that's finally making something visible. One piece of the storm is history. For a long time, ADHD was studied mainly in young boys and especially in boys who were visibly hyperactive. The criteria and the stereotypes were shaped around that. But many girls and women tend to show ADHD differently. Instead of bouncing off the walls, they may struggle quietly with inattentiveness, mental clutter, procrastination, disorganization, or emotional overwhelm. If you don't match the stereotype, it's easy to get missed, and many women were missed. Another piece is compensation. Women can be incredibly good at building elaborate coping systems, lists, alarms, color-coded calendars, last-minute adrenaline, over-preparing, people-pleasing, working twice as hard to look like it's effortless. These strategies can hide ADHD for years. But here's the catch. Those strategies cost energy, a lot of it. And perimenopause can reduce the brain's available resources, so the same woman who kept everything together at 32 suddenly can't keep it together at 42, even though she's trying just as hard or harder. And then there's the midlife load. Let's be honest, for many women, this is an intense season. Career pressure is high. Family needs are complex. Kids might need you in a whole new way. Parents may be aging, your schedule is packed, your brain is tired, and now your biology is shifting underneath you. So, what looks like sudden ADHD can often be the moment the old scaffolding finally collapses. At this point, you may be asking the main question, probably the only question that really matters when you're living this. Okay, but how do I tell which one it is? Here's the honest answer. You may not be able to fully sort that out by yourself, and that doesn't mean you're failing. This is exactly why good assessment matters. We're going to talk much more about evaluation and what to look for later in the series. But for today, I want to give you a few ways to start gathering clues because clues are powerful. First, look backward. ADHD doesn't start at 45. It's lifelong, even if it wasn't recognized. So ask yourself, were there signs earlier in life? Did you struggle with time management, organization, follow through, losing things, forgetting deadlines, procrastinating until panic kicked in, or feeling like you had to work harder than everyone else to stay on top of basic tasks? Maybe you were the one who was smart but scattered, or the high achiever who did everything at the last minute, or the person who looked fine from the outside but felt chaotic on the inside. If your focus and executive function issues truly feel new, like a clear shift that began in your late 30s or 40s, then hormones move higher on the list of likely drivers. Second, track the pattern. Early perimenopause often comes with waves. Symptoms can surge around certain parts of the cycle, then ease up, and then return. So notice whether the brain fog and distractibility come and go. Are there weeks you feel sharper, and then suddenly you're back to feeling like you can't hold on to a thought? That cyclical pattern can be very revealing. With ADHD, the challenges tend to be more consistent over time, though hormones can absolutely amplify them. So it's not always perfectly clean, but patterns still tell a story if you watch long enough. Third, and this is the one I really want you to hear, sometimes the answer is both. Perimenopause can unmask underlying ADHD. You might have had it all along and you were compensating so well that no one, including you, called it what it was. And then the hormonal shift changes the brain's support system, and suddenly your usual methods stop working. That's not a weakness, that's biology meeting a nervous system that's already been working hard for decades. Now, if this is clicking, subscribe so you don't miss next week's ADHD and the hormones behind the chaos. Back to it. And this, it could be both, matters because treatment isn't one size fits all. If the primary driver is hormonal, that changes the plan. If the primary driver is ADHD, that changes the plan. If it's both, we need a blended approach. Getting the label right isn't about collecting a diagnosis. It's about choosing tools that actually match what's happening. So here's the takeaway for today. If you are in midlife and you're struggling with focus, memory, follow-through, and emotional regulation, you're not lazy, you're not broken, and you are not losing your mind. Something real is happening, and there are real reasons for it. I want to leave you not with a final answer, but with a better question, because a clear question is the start of real clarity. Instead of, what is wrong with me? The question becomes, is this a lifelong pattern that's being revealed? Is this a hormonal shift that's mimicking ADHD, or is it a combination? Next week, we're going deeper in the hormone-brain connection. We'll talk about how estrogen, progesterone, and dopamine interact, and why perimenopause can feel like someone unplugged your ability to think. It also ties into what we've covered before on sleep and stress hormones, and it will give you language for your experience that many women have never been offered. And if today's episode sounded uncomfortably familiar, if you've been quietly scared about your memory or your focus or the way your mind feels different, share this with a friend. There are so many women walking around thinking they're alone in this, when really they're in the middle of a common and explainable transition. I'll see you next Friday, friend. Disclaimer, I'm a health coach, not a licensed medical professional. This podcast is for education and informational purposes and is not medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please talk with your physician or qualified healthcare provider about your personal situation. Always vet health information carefully, especially when considering new treatments, and consult professionals to make safe, informed choices. This podcast and the show notes may include affiliate links. If you purchase through those links, I may earn a commission at no extra cost to you, which helps to support the show. As an Amazon associate, I earn from qualifying purchases.